All right, guys, welcome to the Tony and Dakota podcast. We have our first female guest ever on the Tony and Dakota podcast, and Tony's going to introduce her.
This is one of our good friends, part of our friends group, Jacinda Neustel.
Nailed it.
She came to Fort Wayne from Jamestown, North Dakota, about 5 or 6 years ago. She can correct me if I got that wrong. She went from job to job for a little while. She's done everything from being a mechanic to building pontoons to doing some office work later on. Jacinda started to feel like she was onto something when she started AirBNB'ing some of her rooms in her personal home. Now Jacinda manages over 20 units herself for LTD Property Group, herself, other landlords here in Fort Wayne. Jacinda Neustel.
That's me. You nailed it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It feels really cool to be, to have set up this room, and now I get to be one of the guests. So.
That is crazy. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to set up the next one with the same design?
Oh, well, I didn't make up the design, but I can copy it. I'm great about copying once it's up.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I wanted you to tell people the story of you coming to Fort Wayne from North Dakota. What was going on in your life? Why did you move? What did it look like? What happened?
I had come here for a summer job. Someone that I was seeing at the time, he was away for 6 months, and so I was sitting at home feeling sorry for myself that I had wait the whole summer for him. And so someone offered me a summer job, and I was like, yeah, let's go out of town and have something to do. And so when I got here, it was really nice that the weather was nice. It's a bigger city, much bigger than Jamestown, but it was everyone was still good Midwestern people here. I don't feel out of place and stuff like that. So then went back home afterwards, and I was like, yeah, it would be kind of nice to move away. I'd always wanted to think about moving out of North Dakota, but I distinctly remember the moment when I decided to move away. I used to work for United Airlines, and it was negative 50 in North Dakota for a solid 2 weeks. And I was that person, when the plane would land at 11:40 p.m., I'd be that person waving it down on the frickin' tarmac. And I remember, it taxiing in, it takes a long time, and everything just hurts so bad when it's that cold. And I was like, this is it. I don't want to do this anymore. So I think we're all starting to get that about here. Maybe we'll go to Arizona after that. But it was the distinctive moment of all right, this is enough. I'm going to move.
That's crazy. So you came to Indiana, and then you went back home, and then you decided to come? Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's saved up some money. Is this really what I want to do and stuff I even came a second time to look at rentals. None of them panned out. There are some real estate photographers that work some magic because they look nothing like what the actual houses do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They're using virtual staging.
Yeah. It looks nice.
So what was your first job then whenever you came just for that little time?
Yeah, I worked for the same church that I worked at for the summer. So I came back, and I was actually studying. This was when I was studying to work from home. I was I'd already caught the travel itch, and I traveled for 3 months after I graduated high school, and I was like, I'm never going to be able to travel like this with a regular job. So if I can work remotely or work from home, whatever, that way I can still travel and do everything. So I was doing medical transcription and editing. So then I'd work for them part-time and then do that part-time. And then when I finally finished the program and got a job and was doing it, it actually paid less than minimum wage because they pay you per line that you edit. And I was trying to hold out and get good at it, but it never turned around. And so that's when I did pontoon boats, and that was a very humbling season for sure.
So are you a fast typer then?
I used to be. Now that I have nails, not so much, but I could bust out over 120, 130 words a minute kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Got good at it real fast, but.
So what did it look like then? Because I feel like we skipped a bunch. You're and now I'm here. Explain a little bit more about the process of getting moved to Fort Wayne. And so did you? You didn't even say if you broke up with that guy or not. There's so much stuff you left out.
Anymore,
so you broke up with the dude. You're like, hey, I'm going to Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's so freaking warm there.
It normally is.
And you were so excited to get to Fort Wayne, Indiana. Were you like trying to leave your family? Were you like, screw this, I'm done, I'm getting out of here? Was it like, what motivated you to leave? And then what was the environment like when you first got here? Because I imagine when you first get here, you're like, oh, cool, I have no friends. Like, I need to meet people. What's going on? And I can't imagine like picking up right now and like going to another city and just being like, all right, I got this job and now I'm just going to do this. So what did it look like for you to get back to Fort Wayne, decide that that's where you wanted to stay, and then start to like get some different jobs and get into Airbnb?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy actually. So we were still together when we moved here, which honestly was kind of nice to have a partner to move here with. It was a lot of anxiety and stuff like that. I also never like drove that far before and stuff like that. So it was nice to have someone to do it with. And then, when I first arrived here, I had put a deposit down on like a 2-bedroom house or whatever, and it was not livable at all. So then I had to like call some people that I had met the year before and be like, remember me? I don't actually have a place to stay tonight. Like, would you mind if I came and crashed your house? Which was very humbling. And, but then like 2 weeks in, I was going to have when I traveled overseas to Austria, my dear friends that I met over there, they were going to come to America. And so that's why I had like pushed my move up, because I was like, they don't want to, North Dakota's fun, but like when you want to come to America, you want to come to some place where there's things to do and stuff like that. So I pushed my move up a little bit farther than maybe what was comfortable for me. And so then when they were coming, I was like, I don't even have a place to stay for me. And now I got these other people coming, and it was something else. So thankfully I found a 2-bed townhouse on Fairfield Avenue down south, and lots of people don't love the south side, but I've grown to really enjoy it. My current house is only 5 blocks from the first townhouse that I had. But yeah, then I worked at the church for a long time, and I made good friends there, and they always, I made good friends with them the summer before, and so like those are the people that I would hang out with. But then once that guy and I split, then it was like, okay, now you have to go try new things. So I took ballroom dancing classes, and I got to join small groups, and I joined all these different things and stuff like that. And that's when I met y'all. And like, it wasn't supposed to happen that way. I was supposed to join someone else's small group, but theirs was full, and I was already a week late into it. So I was like, I don't know if I really should show up or not. And then, showed up at your house on the first day, and your name was Dakota, like where I was from, and we all said my name 6 or 7 times. And
yeah, that was funny. I remember whenever you first walked in, I was just like, I don't know how to say your name.
You were very honest about it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how to say it, but I saw it in the writing, and you better just say it first.
Yeah. Can you just say it so we all know how to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was awesome. It's funny, too, because Jimmy and I were literally just talking about that. We're like, man, like, that small group wasn't even supposed to happen either. Because, like, we go in there, we're like, hey, it's got to be Mondays. They're like, yeah, Mondays are full. It is what it is. We're like, okay, cool. Let's look at our schedules. Monday's the only day that works for us. And they're like, well, you can open up a new one if that's the only day that works for you. Like, kind of like we weren't going to. And we're like, okay. And then we started one. And then, just like, it felt like it was meant to be. Like, we met some really cool people and all got to connect and become really good friends. So it was pretty crazy.
It's so much more than a small group. Like, trying to tell people now that, like, oh, these are my friends from small group, but like actually we've done like 4 years together, and like I would move anywhere that they would be, and like it's not just these people that I spend an hour a week with them or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah. Like I think all of us do business together, all of us incorporate together, like I don't know.
Yeah, we see each other multiple times a week usually.
Oh yeah.
That is awesome.
How did you and Jimmy decide to like start the small group?
Honestly, I don't remember, but I remember that Jimmy was asking me basically just like impact and stuff like that, and like what we wanted to do. And I remember like I was like, well, like I do feel like I'm not having the relationship with God that I want to have right now. And so then I remember we were like, all right, let's do Villages of Hannah, and then like let's do a small group. So like it was just some way that we could like incorporate like the spiritual side and like get back the relationship with God, and it definitely helped. And then at that time I was going through the divorce and everything like that, so I was like really like just messed up and felt like I needed
your direction again.
So
was there anyone who encouraged you guys to start? Because I feel like I remember Jimmy saying something like, oh yeah, such and such really thought that we should start a small group, but maybe he just heard the message come back and they were like, yeah, you should start your own. But really it was more like, yeah, you guys should like start your own, I guess.
I don't remember anybody specifically saying like,
being
hey,
encouraging.
Yeah, like, hey, like, you guys would be really good small group leaders. I don't remember that ever coming up, but.
Well, you did.
Yeah, we did. We met you.
Yeah.
That made it worth it.
Seriously, I love. I know it's sad like that some of them have like our part of our group haven't made it. Like they've moved away or different seasons of life and stuff like that. But man, like I think about our first trip that we all took to Arizona. That was like kind of a these new people. We'll see how it goes. And like that was 5 of us.
How long did we know you when we went on that trip?
Less than 6 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You're like, all right.
We're going to see how it goes. I was so broke. During that time. Sarah actually lent me the money to go on it.
Wow.
Yeah. That was, okay, so full circle. That was when I finally cut the cord on working from home. I was like, this is just not profitable anymore, and I can't keep draining my bank account. And I actually, like, it was really hard, but I had to ask my parents for rent money one month, and I hate, like, having to be dependent on people. And so I was like, all right, I got to find a new job, and, like, God, whatever you send me, I will take it. Like, it's not what I want anymore. Like, I need a better job. And so that's when Brunswick was hiring. And so, I got to build pontoon boats at 5:30 in the morning until 3:30. And it was really hard work and an interesting environment, but they paid really well. And so I got to get back on my feet. And so then within 6 months of being there, then I got to purchase my house. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, well, first I want to we'll talk about your purchase of your house here soon, because obviously that's a big stepping stone too. But before that, you said that like you didn't want to borrow money from your parents, stuff like that. Did you end up paying them back, or like what's that relationship like now? Like, do you still like not to borrow anything from anybody, and then always make sure that you're keeping is it like a keeping score kind of thing, or?
No, they were very kind about it. I mean, we definitely have an understanding of like, if you need something, I'll always be able to go to them for it. But like, yeah, you're supposed to be an adult, so like it is expected to be paid back. So I got to pay it back, and stuff like that. They were really, really, really understanding about it. I think they both had situations where life is a little tight sometimes. So I really appreciate how easy they made it on me, because I really hated to even have to have that conversation. Just because we're raised to like be independent and take care of yourself and stuff like that. So it was a rough month, but it brought us closer that, my parents will take care of me if I really need it.
Yeah, that just reminds me of like every time like my dad bought me my first vehicle and then all that stuff. So then I feel like, I don't know why, but I don't know if it's just like a difference in like, entrepreneurs or people in general, but anything that my parents gave me, I want to pay them back now. Like even from before I was 18, when like, they're supposed to take care of me, I'm still just like, my dad bought me my first vehicle. So I bought him a truck. He sold that truck. So I was like, all right, I'm giving you another truck. And then he finally kept that one for a little while. So then I felt like, okay, I paid him back now.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's just like you in general, or like did you develop that over time, or?
I really lean a big part of, like who I want to be on being the person that people depend on. So then if I have to be the one that's like, I'm not stable enough to be on my own and I have to be dependent on someone else, I just really don't enjoy it. Plus it can put you in, like, my parents are awesome, but if it was with someone else, like you might have different rules and regulations. They might, have different expectations for it and stuff like that. So I just, I always want to be in a place where other people, like at the end of the day, if they need something, like that's why I like to have a really dependable car. If anyone ever needs me, I can always get to them. If they need finances or if they need a place to stay, like especially since I needed a place to stay when I first came here, like you can come stay at my house. I have 26 places now that you can stay at.
Yeah, like I got a room that you can rent.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Please do compensate in some way now. It's a business, but yeah, at the end of the day, I really want to be the person that people depend on, and so being dependent myself is just a real not what I enjoy a lot.
Yeah, that is interesting, because I feel like that's something else that I try to do is like give so much that if I ever ask anybody for anything, Like it's not like a
They owe
keeping
you.
score. Yeah, it's not like they owe me anything, but I know that I provided so much value for so many different people that if I ever am in need, it's like, dude, like somebody is going to like help me just because I've helped them so much more than what I could ever ask for. At least I try to.
Right.
So yeah, it is interesting though, because I remember when I was younger, I was seen as like the moocher. Like every time I went over to Tony's house,
grapes.
yeah, I ate the grapes. And then I had a friend, Matt Bloomfield, who lives out in Arizona. Like he used to pay for tickets and stuff a lot. So I was known for like people thinking like that I was taking from them and like feeling like that. And it was interesting because it was like the only way I could survive or like actually hang
You're like,
out.
what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, so it is interesting how how that changes. At least for me, once I turned 18, that was when it really switched.
Yeah.
So I don't know if before you're 18, it was like, hey, this is like my parents' responsibility and stuff. And then after 18, you're like, I'm an adult now.
No, I remember like the reason I got a job as soon as I possibly could. Like I'd work for my friend's mom before it was legal, just helping her out or whatever. And then I actually had a job at 14 and stuff like that. But it's because my mom and I have different spending habits. She'll spend $100+ on good shoes because she wants her ankles bother her and stuff like that. I'll spend $10 on shoes, but I'll spend $100 on jeans. And so like when it would come school shopping, their differences would pop up. So then I was like, oh, I want to get a job so then I can spend my money on what I want and stuff like that. And so then it really, I appreciated that when you are independent, or at least you have your own finances, like you get to make your own choices then and stuff like that. So.
That is hilarious because I feel like we have a lot of similarities now. Because I remember when I was young, I was like 12. I was working for $5 an hour, and I was working like 12 hours a day doing concrete.
Jeez.
And I was like, holy crap! I just made $200 this week, and I was like so excited. And then my mom told me that I had to buy my own clothes with that money because like all my sisters got all their school clothes paid for, but then I had to buy my own. But I got to pick whatever I wanted. So I wore all black and like could do whatever I wanted. So it was like nice being able to have that freedom, and I was okay with it as long as I got to like choose.
Yeah. I like to be able to choose what I want to do with my time or things like that. I moved out really fast too. I moved out actually 2 days before graduation and stuff like that, and I was just like, I'm ready to be an adult. Maybe that wasn't the wise decision, but you learn a lot really fast. Yeah. And like,
how old were you?
I had just turned 18 at that time. May 17th is my birthday, and we graduated like the 30th, so I had just turned 18, was able to sign the lease, and it was only for a couple months because then I came here. Like, wow, why did I do that? Oh, just kidding. It was right before I went to Austria, but I was ready to have some freedom, and yeah, it was the bills come quick, and like it's really a lot of freedom, like just to like, oh, no one knows where I am if I don't come home at this time or whatever. And it's not like I was out being a juvenile delinquent, but then you show up to work and you're like, dang, I only got 2 hours of sleep last night or something like that. Like I was a really good kid in high school, so it was a lot of freedom really fast that was definitely an adjustment. Now I think I'm a little bit more boring again. But
so you went from 18, you moved out, and then you went to Austria, and then you came back to North Dakota, and then you came to Indiana. Or what's that timeline look like? Like how long were you in that rental house? How did you even qualify or find it? Were you working, or like talk about right after high school what happened?
Yeah. I was working at the dealership in Jamestown, and so I got a 3-month lease starting in May. And then like August, September, I went to Austria, which I don't know why I didn't just live with a friend for 3 months. Like I could have saved so much money if I would have. But then I went to Austria. I was trying to stay for the whole year, but it was during the Syrian refugee crisis. So like I couldn't get a work visa. So blew through my savings account, came back, worked again for a while. That time I worked at O'Reilly's for a while because I knew I wasn't going to stay for a good amount of time. And then, went to Fort Wayne here, came back, worked for the dealership again, and then as well as the airline. Didn't realize that actually if you work for the airline, you get to fly for free. So that was really fun. We should make friends with people that work at the airlines.
Yeah.
And then I moved out here finally. And so I worked for the church. I worked at the work from home place. Worked for Brunswick. I worked for the dental lab, and now I worked for UPS for about 4 days, and then I came here.
That's awesome. Well, now I would want to hear about your house experience, buying your first property, that experience, what other people told you, and like just the struggles of buying your first property. Because a lot of people that we talk to, it seems to me that people are scared to buy their first investment property. They're less scared to buy their first property in general, but in my opinion, you bought an investment property as your first property, so that is a little bit more scary. So yeah, walk us through that.
I was watching a friend from back home. He was into real estate investing, and he was like had a fourplex, and he was just collecting checks every month. And I was like, I want to do that. And so I literally Googled one day, like, what are the best cities to invest in real estate in the United States? And Fort Wayne is in the top 10. So I was like, great, I'm already here. This is perfect. So I thought that I would do like a duplex or something like that. But the way that the FHA loans go, all the utilities have to be split. And since the houses here are kind of like chopped houses, they're not really split like that. So it wasn't working out. And I was kind of getting discouraged, especially because like my lease was coming up. And I was like, I think I talked to you a lot about it. I was like, I don't know where I'm going to stay. I don't know what I'm going to do. And you're like, well, you could just stay in our room if you really need to. But so then I finally switched to like, okay, what if I get a fixer-upper? And then I can flip it in like 2 years. Then I can sell it. I can live in it while I do it. Like Investor Girl Britt does it all the time. Like she was super cool to watch on Instagram. And I was like, yeah, I'll figure it out. It'll be fine. But like I used to have like some phases that I'd go through that were like I'd have all these great ideas and they would never pan out because I just didn't put in the work, or I didn't discipline myself enough, or I didn't think it through. And so, yeah, it was a rough time, like actually finding a property that I could see the vision for and stuff like that. And a bunch of people always tell you like, oh, when you see it, you'll know. That's a bunch of crap. But actually, it kind of was. Like this house had been on the market for a couple months, and in the market that we're in, like that was crazy. Because I was getting really discouraged that every property that would pop up that I could go look at, they'd be sold before I'd even go there.
What year was it? 2018? Okay, 19, okay.
Yeah. And so this house was just a couple blocks away from where I was. And honestly, I'd heard of South Calhoun Street, and I was like, I don't want to live on there, no thank you. But drove past it one day, and like all the houses around it have like acre lots. This one has 1.18 acres. It's got 3 walls of windows, and coming from my townhouse, I had like 2. I was like, I'm ready for some sunlight. So, and inside the house, like the previous person had like gutted it down to it was like cement floors. The carpets need to still be taken out in the bedrooms, but like there's a hole in a load-bearing wall too. He chopped a hole in a load-bearing wall, so it was starting to sag, and like the kitchen it needed some love, but this was the first house that I could actually envision, like, oh, this is what I'll do here, this is what we'll take out, this is what I could do. And so then it was like, okay, is this actually what I want to do? How do I have the money for it? Because like 6 months ago, I had to ask my parents for rent money, so I'm doing okay, but I don't have like a large savings account. So then that's when you told me about like how you can put it on your credit card, basically. And so I don't know what you call it exactly.
Manufacturer spending.
That changed the game. Like you're giving yourself a loan. Like as long as you have good credit, like you can really make it work for you and stuff like that. So I put my down payment on a credit card, basically, and oh, yeah, the guy was so wonderful, but since the house was a little bit rough, people kept, like, lowballing him, and so he'd get really sensitive about it. And so, like, when the appraisal came in under than what I'd offered him, I think I offered him 73, and it came back at 70, and so I was like, I don't even have the money for the down payment, much less paying over what the bank's going to give me. And so you encouraged me to give him a call, actually, because talking between the lawyer or the realtors, like, it just wasn't working out. He was getting mad. He was getting kind of frustrated with it. And so I just called him one time and was like, hey, I love the house. This is what I dream about doing in it. Like, I really want to just live my life here and be able to have friends over and enjoy the backyard and stuff like that. And I appealed to his, like, this is his family home. And so then he finally agreed. He's like, yep, I totally get it. I'd be happy to. And then I actually had to talk to him again about the closing costs because I was like, I also don't have money for that. So he's like, whatever you can contribute. He was super nice about it. And like, he left all the lawn equipment in there. He helped me mow it for the first time because there's a lot there that you have to like watch out for and stuff. So he was really nice about it. And I had to actually I had to gut and redo the bathroom before the house was actually mine. Strongly would not recommend. But the loan wouldn't go through because there was like a hole in the shower or something like that. So I had to figure out how to do it. And that was a good weekend of like, okay, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I've never renovated a house before. I don't have the tools for it. I don't have the money basically to do it either. But there's a lot that you can find on YouTube, and it's working still. I still shower in that shower. So.
That's awesome. I feel like there's a lot of lessons there that you spoke about. The first one that I was thinking of is the first thing is like, that's what I was explaining to you, was that like, it's such an emotional decision when you're selling a property and your ego gets in the way, especially when there's realtors involved and all you're looking at is a piece of paper and a number. That's it. And then your realtor's like, hey, this is what they offered. Like, we're humans, no matter how, emotional people like think that they like, can put a wall up or whatever. And they're like, it's not personal, it's business. Like, no, we're human beings. It's going to be personal. So yeah, talking to people and like letting them know your situation and like why it, doesn't make sense for you. That's how we get properties for really good deals as well, because we're like, hey, like, this is our situation. This is why we can't pay this amount. We can pay this amount. If it doesn't work, not a big deal, but like at least they're understanding where it's not like, hey, I'm not trying to lowball you. I'm just letting you know that like I'm doing everything I can on my end.
That's all I got.
Yeah, if it doesn't work on your end, that's okay. But also, like, a lot of people will tell you, oh, you don't have the money for it, like you can't buy a home. But at the same time, it's like, if you ask, how can I do it? And that's the questions that you asked was, how can I do this? How can I make it work? And you find a way to make it work, and seems like it's paying off. So let's talk about like how you actually started generating income from it then, and like, did it pay off? And like, did you pay off your credit cards, all that different things?
Oh yeah. When I was still at my townhouse, someone was like, yeah, you should rent out your extra room now that you have that space. And I was like, no, I don't really want to get murdered in my sleep. Like, I'm a single female. I don't want to have strangers come stay with me. But I needed the money at the time. So I was like, whatever, I'll give it a try. If I don't like it, I never have to do it again. And then I started not having to like make my rent payment anymore. I had a little extra money, and so I was like, oh, this will be perfect. Okay, this is what I'll do at the flip house. Like, when I flip it, there's 3 extra rooms. That's what I'll do there. But by the time I finished the reno, enough for people to come stay, it was COVID, like May 2020. Like, no one's vacationing anymore. But then I started getting these travel nurses that book on Airbnb, and they stay for like 13 weeks at a time. So then I appreciated that it wasn't nightly stays anymore, because then I'd have to like pick every single little hair out of my drain in my shower, make sure there's no dishes in the sink, like have it hotel ready every single time, which just makes it hard like when I was working full time and stuff like that. So I appreciated that it was more of like a roommate situation. You still get to make the rules, there's a money exchange, but you still have a little bit more control of your house and stuff like that. So then one room got booked, and so then I was like, I only had a bed in that room, and then I accidentally double booked them, and so I was like, whoa, all right, I guess I'm gonna sleep on the floor and get a mattress from somebody else. And so I hurry up and furnished another room before this other person came, and I slept on a mattress for probably like 2 months while I was trying to like recoup the money to furnish another room. And so like it all happened really fast. I'd say probably within 6 months then I had all 3 of the rooms furnished and booked out and stuff like that. And then I was starting, like, I think it was on the phone with you, and I started to realize like, oh, I've actually replaced my income. Like, this is financial freedom now. I still have a day job, but yeah, if things go bad, like I actually have this to lean on and stuff like that. So it happened faster than I really thought it was going to happen at all.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then later you ended up just refinancing out and then paying off all the debt and like getting a lower rate and everything, or what happened there?
Yeah, when I bought the house, I didn't do my research, I guess, on how to get the money to put into the house. So I got like a personal loan, which is a higher percentage and stuff like that. I think I got a $7,000 loan. So I dumped all that money into the house, and then when I went to refinance, lumped that loan in there. and then was able to pull out, I think, like $20,000 to be able to redo the kitchen, and then I actually got to put that towards the new properties this year and stuff like that. So it was nice to actually, like, it was a good moment of like, oh, it actually worked out. Like, I most of the time my decisions like, oh, I didn't think it through or whatever, but this one, like, the refinance came through like well over what I bought it for, and got to refinance, and like it worked out better than I could have imagined.
Yeah, that is crazy too. Like, I know Grant Cardone's always like, don't buy a house. Don't buy your personal house. That's the dumbest thing you could do. But it's like, man, like if I didn't buy a house, if you didn't buy a house, like, you can leverage that property to buy so many different properties, and the rates that they give you for your own residence are like lower than you can get on almost anything else. Like they're basically giving you almost free money. I mean, it's stupid low rates. So
For real.
yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to have a personal residence and to make sure that you use it basically the way that you're using is like use it to produce income.
Yeah, I really don't appreciate when people are like, oh, your personal house, it's an asset. It's an asset. Like most of the time it's a money pit for years until you sell it. And like, even if you sell it for $20,000 more over what you bought it for, like how many years of utilities have you put into it and like all these improvements?
Maintenance,
and stuff like, is it actually an asset? Is it making you money? Like the rich dad, poor dad, like is it actually in like bringing you income and stuff like that? So that's what I appreciate about Airbnb is like, oh, then I could make it profitable. Like I don't have a duplex, but I can still rent it out. And it was a lot higher of a rent rate that I could charge for short term than versus long term.
Yep, and it's funny because I use my personal residence to make income in a totally different way. So like my house does not generate income by itself. I actually pay, and then I was like, man, I can see where Grant Cardone's coming from on this, because I'm like, I just spent $10,000 on rocks to go around my house. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing ever. It's like, what am I doing? And like, you know, it's like you say that, you say it's my personal residence, so then you feel justified in doing it, and you're like, I'm gonna live here. I want it to be what I want. And I just noticed I was dumping money into the property. But what I did is I used a home equity line of credit to then buy cash flowing assets. So it still is producing income in another way, even though I'm not like producing income from that itself. I'm using the equity from the asset to actually do it. So
yeah, where people get stuck with their home equity line of credit, like I remember my dad being like, we should refinance the house and then put a roof on it. Or like we should refinance the house and then pay down the credit cards. Or we should refinance the house and then get you a newer vehicle kind of thing. So it's like when you just continue to use your liabilities to you know, pay off previous liabilities or like to cover debts or like that sort of thing. Only if it really makes sense should you do it, because a lot of times doing consumer activities is going to lead to you know, having to work more. So the whole point is just to create something that brings you cash every month.
Yeah.
Work less.
Yep.
So for people who want to get started in real estate investing, are there any like books, podcast resources that you recommend? And then also for people who are looking at Airbnb but don't think that they could do it, what advice do you have to those people?
I listened to the Bigger Pockets podcast for like a long time about how I was going to do I want to get into real estate? What kind do I want to do? Stuff like that, which seems to be like a lot of the ways that people start out. And I don't think I read a lot of books, unfortunately, until recently. Like Rich Dad, Poor Dad was a big eye-opener, especially the Cash Flow Quadrant one now. 5-Hour Work Week, things like that. That was more later on once I got into it. But
I think it was only 4 hours.
is that what it is?
You might be working 5. Tim first still working 4.
It was 5-hour work week for Jacinda.
She's a little sad. But for Airbnb, I really didn't know what I was doing. Like I got twin beds from some like friends here, and I used my grandma's quilts on them, and like it wasn't necessarily anything nice. So then once I started getting more into it, like, oh, how can I streamline this of like have double sheets for everything, just the little things, like so you can turn over more. But my biggest piece of advice about Airbnb is like it really doesn't take anyone special. Like I just wash sheets, put them down, and tried to smile when people would come into my house. Like it changed my life, and it wasn't because I was good at anything. Like, anyone can do it, and like, you don't have to work for, 50 some years till you're 75. Like, it doesn't have to be any success fairy that comes in. Like Andy Frisella talks about the success fairy and how, I used to think that some people were predestined to be more successful than others, and like it really wasn't anything that I was good at. Just you wash sheets, you put them on the bed, you take pictures of your house. Crappy pictures too. I had a really old phone, and so like they weren't nice pictures. None of it was nice. It was like $30 a night, and like it started out that way, but figure it out as you go. And then eventually I got a Airbnb coach and stuff like that. But you really don't have to be anyone special to get started in Airbnb.
What is rental arbitrage, and then what does that look like?
So yeah, when I quit my job in April, I was like, well, maybe. Well, we went to basic, and then I was like, okay, all right, I'll get another one. I'll get a new unit this year, but I can't buy a house now because I quit my job. And so I was doing some research on other Airbnb people and what they do, and they do rental arbitrage. So they'll go to a landlord and tell them like, hey, I'm gonna be the person on the lease. I'm gonna furnish the house, change the locks, and rent it out to other people. And sometimes you'll get a no, and sometimes you'll get a yes. And so that's what I was like, that's what I've got to do, because I don't have the money otherwise. I can come up with, first month's rent or a deposit, but I can't come up with a 20% down payment for a house. And so, yeah, I talked to Ed, and I was so scared. I had no idea how to, like, pitch. This is before I got my coach, and so I, like, called him up in, like, the shakiest voice and was like, this is what I do. I don't know if you want to do it, but, like, this is kind of what I was thinking. But it's cool if you don't want to do it. And, like, he's like, I mean, sure, look at some properties, and we'll see what we can do. And so, yeah, we ended up finding one student housing building that was set up perfectly for me, and they took a chance. I definitely pitched, like, the travel nurses and stuff like that, so I don't have anyone stay less than 14 days or anything like that. Like, these people are staying for months at a time. But yeah, rental arbitrage, I think, is a great way to scale. You're not necessarily building equity, but it
produces cash flow
very fast. Yeah.
So you got a coach. Talk about the thought process behind getting a coach, and then what the benefits were of getting a coach. Like, was it worth it? What all do you feel like it accelerated the learning process, and what did you get out of it? Like, would you recommend other people get a coach?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, I was watching you guys, and, like, you guys have coaches, 3, 4, 5 coaches and stuff like that. And I was like, dang. I mean, I could suffer through it and, like, try to figure it out and fail here and fail there. And that's one thing if they're my properties, but, like, also subleasing. Like, I want to be accountable for those. And then when I started managing for you guys and other people, too, I was like, it's one thing if I drop the ball for me, but if I drop it for them, this is not going to go well. And so I was like, I need to learn how to scale bigger, and that's how you do it, is by getting a coach. And so I was just going on Instagram and, like, searching Airbnb people, and they'd always schedule these, like, 15-minute Zoom calls with you, and it was just a free little thing. They'd see what you want, what you're about, stuff like that. And I'd gone through a few, and then one night I had one with, my coach was Jorge Contreras, and during the day I saw on Ryan Pineda, your guys' coach, I saw on his Instagram that him and Jorge had done, like, a live that day. And I was like, that's the same guy that I'm supposed to be meeting with tonight. So I was super excited. And the person that I met with on that Zoom call the first night, like, everything aligned. Like, this is the kind of business we're into. They're super about personal development, too, and, like, freedom of time. And it's not just about making money. It's, like, how do you want to live your life and legacies and stuff like that. And so everything aligned with it. I really appreciated that he did business with Ryan, and I was like, that seems like this is the place to go. And so got coaching from them, and it was like Monday through Thursday, and they're all West Coast, so it was like 9 to 11 p.m. every night on these coaching calls. But it was super fun to, like, be around other people that were in it. Like, most of the time I've been this like the crazy girl that has strangers come stay with her, and so it was nice to be around other people that were into it. They saw, like, the perks of it, and to be able to learn like the little tips and tricks of, like, this is what you put on your listing, like cozy. Use the word cozy 600 times in your listing. I don't know what it is, but for some reason that's the word.
You can't say small. You got to say cozy.
Cozy, yeah. not industrial, not anything like that. Cozy. Cozy is the word.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What if it's a normal size? Do you still call it cozy?
Yep, sure do. Everything's super cozy. Warm, comfortable, cozy.
It's just like you walk in and there's just like these pillars and like this big archway and everything, and it just looks ominous, and you're like, really cozy, quaint.
You know, it'd be funny is if like it'd be funny if you just have like art everywhere and it all says cozy. All of the art. They're just like looking at photos and there's a picture of cozy every single room.
It's honestly hard to keep them straight in like my management software because every single property starts with cozy. So then I have to like try to give it a different internal like because I don't freaking know what it is. They all say cozy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned software. What CRM tools or systems could you not live without?
For a while I used with Airbnb, when someone inquires about your property, you have to respond within an hour. Otherwise, Airbnb kind of is like, hey, you're not that responsive, and so when I was working my day job, I got a system that they would reply automatically for me and stuff like that. You had set up replies, automated things, and stuff like that. So that really helped me. But I started to notice that it was kind of robotic and people could tell that it wasn't me, because then I'd come back later and be like, oh, actually, yeah, we already talked about this, it's actually this or something like that. So it just wasn't that professional, I didn't think. And so then I stopped doing that because then I had my freedom of time. I could actually, when I quit my day job, I was able to be the one doing it. But then once I got more than my own, once I started getting your guys and stuff like that, I wanted to post on different platforms and stuff like that too. Like if people wanted to book directly with me, like the nurses, they typically will, or Airbnb. There's also VRBO. And so having a double booking is the worst. Like it's the absolute worst. And you have to go with the Airbnb one. Otherwise, like you can get severely penalized. Like eat it with whatever it is, with whoever else, like pay them off, find a new place for them, pay for a hotel for them, but like keep the Airbnb one because otherwise you get like docked really bad for it. So I got the management platform. I use Hostfully. It's cheaper than Guesty or other things like that. So it really keeps all your calendars straight. I appreciate that I can build a property on that one, and then it'll push it onto VRBO, onto Airbnb and stuff like that. And then it allows for like nice payment platforms. Like we use Stripe now and stuff like that. So it's been an interesting getting used to that. I felt so freaking dumb. I had like 5 coaching calls with them on how to figure out the website.
Does it make it so that you won't accidentally double book people?
Yes and no. So if you use it the right way, that I don't, you won't have any double bookings. But I don't like to have instant book on Airbnb, and so I can't have them absolutely synced immediately. So then I just have to go through and like refresh the calendars. So there is a slight possibility of ever having like a double booking, but that would only be if I didn't refresh my page and didn't, if I accepted a booking when I knew that there was one and stuff like that. So if you're doing actual vacation rentals and stuff like that, it's absolutely perfect for it.
With Airbnb, do you feel like Airbnb will get saturated? Do you think that it'll ever become like less lucrative because of competition?
I do get a little bit nervous about it here in Fort Wayne just because like we're all getting into it, and it makes me really happy because it's so profitable and I want people to have that same experience. But I guess maybe with the nurses that we're all really enjoying, I don't know if it'll quite be like this for forever. Maybe in the next 2 years it might slow down. But I do think that at that point the vacations will start coming up. Like Fort Wayne is growing exponentially, and so I think for actual vacation rentals we'll be okay. But like my properties are set up rented out per room, so I think I might be in a little bit of a tighter spot in a couple years. So adjusting how that goes.
You heard it. Jacinda said earlier, you got to come to Fort Wayne if you want stuff to do.
Or if you want warm weather.
Yeah, warm weather and stuff to do when you're used to North Dakota, I guess. Fort Wayne's like this metropolis.
It was so nice. My first winter here, when I worked at the boat place, they called me one day. It was like -8, and they're like, yeah, it's too cold to come into work. And I was like, what? Like, normally my old bosses would be like, can you come in early? Everything's broken. So you want to stay home? It's too cold.
So, what are you going to do if the market dips?
Like if Airbnb just drops out?
I don't know. That's just one of the questions I had.
My worst case scenario, like if things don't go well with rental arbitrage and stuff like that, like worst case scenario, I do appreciate that with those worst case scenarios, you just buy yourself out of the lease. So pay 3 months rent, buy yourself out. You're not going to be in the worst case scenario sitting on a house that you have, you know, how much money into or something like that. But I don't think, I think people are going to be traveling for a while. I think they like Airbnb because they can actually have kitchens and, you know, they can bring their pets and their families and stuff like that. So when it comes to if it's going to ever not be there at all, I think maybe it'd just be a different platform.
So I guess, what do you think your biggest superpower is?
Ooh. I would say that it's that. So I name my company J Trade Properties and stuff like that. My Instagram handle is J of All Trades, and I do think that my like best asset about myself is that I'm not great at anything, and it used to feel really like I used to feel bad about it. Like in high school, everyone has their thing that like, oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and I'm really passionate about these things, and I was like, I'm not really great at anything, but I'm moderately okay at everything. And so, like, that really benefited me, like, with all the jobs that I've had, with renovating the house. Like, I don't know how to do any of it really great, but it's still standing. Like, I took out a load-bearing wall in my house, and it hasn't fallen in half yet. So I think that would be my biggest asset of, like, I genuinely do believe that I'll be able to figure out how to get it done sustainably.
Yeah, I got 2 things on that. So one is that book, Everything is Figure-Outable.
Yeah.
That sort of reminds me of it. Then 2, I would say, like, now everybody knows you for how great you are at Airbnb. So, like, now you found your thing that, like, it's like, man, like, she's really great at this. And, like, everybody in town, I honestly think that a lot of people in town know that. And, like, you know, sometimes that almost comes into a detriment because everybody's like, hey, can I come, you know, learn from you, or can you do this for me and stuff? And it's like, dang, you have to turn down some people. But yeah, I definitely think that now that's one of your superpowers is like that you're known for knowing what to do with Airbnb and being like an expert in the Fort Wayne area. So
yeah, that's been weird to like have something that I'm actually fairly knowledgeable about and stuff. So
yeah. That's
It's
awesome.
almost like known for too, because it's not so much a superpower as it is like it's not a character trait. It's like something that comes from like doing the work and putting in the time, and then people come to you like, I want to do Airbnb. Can I like talk to you for an hour over lunch? It's like, dude, I can't teach you everything that I learned in the last I can't teach you everything there is to know about Airbnb. You can't just go do it next week. Like this took a while.
Right.
You have to get committed to it and decide that you're definitely going to do it.
Right. There's definitely some niche things about it. Like you can get started, you'll make some mistakes, you'll figure it out, but there are some like little tips that like, all right, give me like 20 minutes, I'll give you like the quick synopsis, and then you can figure it out if you want. I'm trying to get into coaching more now because it changed the game for me. Like it replaced my income in a year, so I'd like to be able to help other people do it, and just I can't do it for them all the time. So if I can teach them how they can do it.
Yeah. Speaking of coaching, what's that setup look like for you now? And like if people are interested in learning from you, how could they reach out to you, and like what would the structure look like?
Right now, I'm doing like Zoom calls, or if you want me to go out in person, you know, got an hourly rate for that and stuff like that. But if you reach out to me on Instagram or whatever, J of All Trades is my Instagram handle. But I'm really excited. You don't necessarily have to like do a whole like program with me or anything like that. Like if you just have a few questions, like I'm really down to just help in any way.
So it's just per session that you charge? Okay.
So far, I'd love to create a program and actually do it. It's like just like you guys, it's the actual like sitting down, making it happen. What do I want to say? Things like that.
So if you're comfortable, you want to share with people like how much it would cost?
Yeah, I do $100 an hour for a Zoom call, and then if you want me to come out to the property, it's $150. So,
Cool.
So,
Yeah, that's pretty cheap.
Really?
Especially like, I mean, I think so. To get advice, like the way that I look at advice and different things like that is the same way that I look at like Zoom calls for sales. I'm like, man, like it's $100 a month. Let's say you go 1 month, you learn one close. That one thing is going to help you make probably over $1,000 in your first couple months for sure. But then I look at the lifetime of the knowledge that you provide because you've been through other things. So you provide one thing that's going to make them thousands of dollars that they now get to use for the rest of their life. And it's not to say that they would not find it themselves, but they're going to find it faster, which means that they get to make more money in a faster amount of time.
That's true.
So that's the way that I look at like knowledge and learning and coaching and like growing. And that's why like you should always pay money. Well, you don't necessarily have to pay money, but I think you should pay money to grow because then you also pay more attention to what you're learning. Like when you pay money, you're paying attention. If you're just going on YouTube and stuff, I'm playing in the background. I'm like, and you get stuff from it. But when you pay money and like you're asking specific questions that you really need help with at that time, I think it just shortens the curves and makes you more money in the long run. So yeah, I think it's very cheap.
Okay, that makes me feel good because I never want it to be like, I know when I first started out, I'd never be able to afford that. So I definitely want to make sure that it's affordable for people, but it's still well worth my time. Because otherwise, people cancel, they're busy or whatever, and then it's a waste of your time as well. And so I want to make sure it's a win-win.
And I would say that most of the time, I see people's biggest struggle is not lack of information. It's lack of like Tony was talking about, committing, like doing it. So when you pay money to learn for it, guess how much more you are now committed to actually making a return on your investment. I feel like you're more likely. It's not necessarily like there's a lot of people that spend money on courses and never do anything with it. Right. So it does happen. But at least you're taking the right steps and you're more likely that at that point. So what I look at in sales is like very similar to this is all you're doing in sales is you're trying to get them to the next step. When you're on the phone call, you're getting to an appointment. When you're at the appointment, you're getting to the contract. When you sign the contract, you're getting to the closing table. All you're trying to do is get them to that next spot. When I'm on the phone, I'm not trying to, wrap up the contract. It's not going to work, but you just go through the next steps. And I do that with my own life. It's like, just like, we're doing AirBNB's out in Arizona now. Mm-hmm. You taking that initiative to go out there looking at properties like, all right, it's time for me to take the next steps now because you took the next step. So then I'm like, okay, the next step is, talking to somebody out there, get some boots on the ground, pull the list, and Tony pulls the list and stuff. So it's just going through the next steps. And eventually you're so far in that you're just going to do it anyway. Yeah, because you're so far in that, all right, it's time to do it. So yeah, I think putting money towards something, paying somebody, learning makes you more likely to do it too. So I think it's all around a good thing.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's with anything too. It's not just business. There are coaches for everything. So
yeah,
it's important to be well-rounded and learn something about yourself too.
I used to be like, no, I want to do everything like the cheapest way possible. I'll just like I renovated my whole house for myself because I didn't want to pay someone to do it, or like, I'll just figure out how to do AirBNB's by myself, and I don't want to pay extra money. But like, man, if I would have gotten a coach way back then, I would have scaled so much faster. I would have learned about arbitrage even faster. Like it would definitely well worth swallowing your pride a little bit and actually getting a coach. Like you don't know everything. Learn from someone who knows more than you do.
Definitely.
When you do it yourself, you get to learn the lessons the hard way. But like your floating floor in your hallway would have been. You only would have had to have done it once if you would have hired somebody else. Probably. It depends on the contractor.
Yeah, you never really know that.
It's getting worse right now. I came back from Arizona and it's cracking even more. So I just slowly moved the rug farther and farther down to cover my mess up. Whatever.
Awesome.
If that was the worst mistake I made on the house.
Well, speaking of, what's your biggest struggle right now?
Right now?
Besides the cracking
my floor that I stare at all the time. Right now, I would probably say, like, aligning what I want in life. Like, there's a lot of opportunities that are coming my way, which I'm super grateful. Like, I still feel like that imposter syndrome of, like, I don't know, it's just that girl that couldn't make rent one month, and now it's working, and I don't have to work, and I now get to help. I now have an assistant, and she gets to live the life that I also want for her and stuff like that. She has freedom of time, gets to bring her dog with it, stuff like that. Like, she gets to structure her life. But I'd say my biggest struggle is I forgot my train of thought now. My probably biggest struggle would be aligning what my actual goals are in life. Like, do I want another day job, basically, or do I want to have my financial freedom? And so I think that's why I'm learning more into coaching and making sure that other people can still do it. I just don't have to do it for them so that they can have the gratification of it. Like, you can do it too.
Yeah, I'll say that's something else that, I'm looking at in my life as well. And I know, like, people who are going way bigger obviously deal with it too, like Ryan Pineda and stuff. Like now, whenever you get to a spot where people know what you're doing well at something, you get a lot more opportunities, it feels like. So more people know about you, more opportunities come to you, and then you have to decide, what do I really actually want? Because like everybody's got opportunities that are going to make you more money.
Yeah.
They're like, really sound really cool, but then like you have to decide now, because before you got to where you're at, it seems like, from, making decisions, going with it, and like taking any opportunity that life gives you. It's like, dude, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. But then once you get past a certain point where you have so much going on, now you have to decide, is this the life that I actually want? And is it getting me closer or further away? Because a lot of times I say yes to stuff and I'm like, wait a second, I think this is pulling me further away from what I really want, but you don't really know until you map it out. So,
and especially, like, I think we all come from, like, we didn't always have the most money and stuff like that. So now, why would I say no to an opportunity that could make me money? But is money really what I want, or do I want financial freedom and have my time, be able to go visit and travel and things like that? So
yep,
it's been really hard to say no to opportunities of like, is this going to be like the one that the universe tells me, oh, you're not accepting anymore, now it's all going to go to crap. But
right. And you're definitely, the interesting thing is that you're definitely saying no to more money. Like, there's no question about that. And like, people think that you're stupid, especially when you're talking to them. So like, they'll come to you, I got this amazing thing. And you want to make more side income? Do you want to do this? No. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Why would you not? And it's like, yeah, it's very interesting the way that other people look at you as well. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I know that this would make me more money. Still not what makes sense for me right now.
I was listening to Gary Vee again the other day, and he was like, I know a lot of people that make a couple $100,000 and are very happy. They get to spend every night with their family. They get to go on trips when they want to, but like they're pretty happy with just that. And then he's like, I know millionaires that are just hating their life because they have no free time. They never see their family. They don't have time to take vacations. And like, yeah, when I first started out, I was like, yeah, I could probably like try to be a millionaire. Like that would be something to like say I did, but then would I be actually happy? Like I'd be so busy then running everything around, and I think I'd rather just sit at home with my dog if I want to.
Yeah, and it's honestly really good to realize that, because that's something I always feel like, I'm like, man, I hit a goal, I get like tunnel vision, I make the goal, and then I'm like, dang,
what's next?
Yeah, I'm like, dang, that freaking sucked. Like, I want to relax now. You know what I mean? It's like, I've actually just noticed that I do that in my life. It's like a workout. I can push myself so hard if you tell me, hey, you're 3 away from being done. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's go real hard then, and then I'll be done. And then, but like, if you tell me, oh, we're going to be doing this for the next hour and a half, I don't push myself as hard. I'm like, oh man, I need to like relax. I need to like reserve. Yeah. But I'm like to me, it's like, if you could live life where you're just like, going with the flow, enjoying it the whole time, like it'd be better. And I have not figured out how to do that yet. I've not figured that out. I've always have the goal mindset, but
yeah, now we've like transitioned into more of like, I don't necessarily have like a time and place that I have to be at every day and stuff like that. And before, we have all these properties now to furnish, but I had like 2 weeks where I didn't have like a whole lot to do, and like, oh my gosh, waking up and like, oh, I could just lay around if I wanted to. I could go, I could do whatever I wanted today, and it didn't feel good actually, because I've been pushing for the last 3 years of like I'd wake up at like 3 in the morning before I go work at 5:30 to work on my house. Then I'd come home and I'd work on my house, and like people would want to go out, and I'd be like, no, I can't do that. I have to work on my house. I have to do this, and like when I was furnishing the other properties, like I had no free time, and it's super gratifying. It's super painful, but it's really gratifying. And so now I'm trying to like, I worked so hard to get to this point where I could just enjoy my freedom of time, but it's hard sometimes.
Yeah. I was literally just talking to Tony about that yesterday in the car. I was like, man, it's interesting that we work so hard, and we're working hard for comfort.
Yes.
Then we get comfort, and then it's not actually that comfortable because like now we're on ourselves because we set an expectation for ourselves. So now we have an expectation about what we're supposed to do, what is success, how we get successful, and then we keep trying to push so hard to get to a point where we don't have to do that anymore. And then it's like, man, and then I remember there's two things I remember Ed Milet said multiple times. He said, I know more people that used to be rich than are rich today. And that scares the crap out of me. Just because like, you know, they got really wealthy and they fell off. And then I remember another analogy that he gave was just that like life is like riding a bike. As soon as you stop pedaling, you fall down. Now there might be times when you pedal harder and you can pedal like slower and like still enjoy it and coast a little bit.
Right.
But if you stop pedaling, you will fall. So I was like, man, that is very interesting that we're all chasing comfort.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you hit comfort, that's when you fall off. And I've noticed that like people who don't have a lot of money a lot of times live too much in that comfort stage, and they're not willing to put themselves in discomfort for the opportunity for something greater. And I'll put myself in through some discomfort, but I only want it to last for a little amount of time. And like, you know, a little amount of time for the business is, you know, like 5 to 10 years. And I definitely feel like we're going to get there, but it's interesting how like that, if I tell myself, I'm like, just this amount of time, I got to do it.
Yeah.
And then after that, I can live forever fine. And then I go and do the next thing and I got to suffer some more.
Yes. Yeah.
It's funny too, because I thought of Jocko, because Jocko has an entire book that's like discipline is freedom. So he talks about like it's a contrarian idea too, where it's like, oh, well, you know, if you don't get up and work out in the morning, then you end up being in a worse mood. And then you end up having a less pleasant life experience just with your friends, your family, stuff like that. And so like being able to do both, like enjoy your freedom, but also create some structure in your life. It's just when you actually have 100% control of your time, then you have to spend it like responsibly.
It's almost too much, like to have no one that necessarily tells you what to do. Like, oh, I actually think I need a little bit of some guidelines of like, I want some place to show that I have to show up to in the morning. Otherwise, like I've been, especially in the wintertime, like I've been sleeping in until 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Like I used to wake up at 3, and now I can hardly roll out of bed before 7.
I've noticed that too. I'm like, man, like it used to be so much easier to get up. I was literally just telling Tony, I was like, man, like I worked out 3 times last week, and I like my minimum that I will work out and like feel okay with myself. My expectation for myself is a minimum of 5.
Yeah.
Like if I don't do 5, I feel like a piece of crap. And so now like my self-confidence goes down, like all of that stuff. But then like, it's like, man, I worked so hard for so long to get to the point. I've been working like, you know, 12-hour days since I was 18.
Yeah.
Now I'm finally at a point where I don't have to, but then as soon as I don't, I've already created that expectation. It's like, no, like you're going to work out like no matter what. But then I'm like, am I enjoying it? But I have noticed, this is very weird, but I've noticed that when you choose to put yourself in the horrible situations that like I used to not have a choice in, you know, like I used to not have a choice on whether I had hot water. I used to not have a choice on if I slept on some floors, you know what I mean? Like whenever you're choosing to do those things, it does feel better. We were just in Vegas and we're sleeping on some air mattresses.
Really?
Yeah, because we're cheap. But we like to save money, but it's funny because like it doesn't feel as bad when you get to choose. It's when you have no option and you have to like lay on the floor of like somebody's house because like you don't have another option. It's like, no, I got to stay with my friend because I moved here and I don't have a house. You know what I mean? Like the option is more empowering in some ways, but yeah, it's interesting.
Jacinda, it's 60 years from now, and you're on your deathbed, and you have a saying or a message to the world. It's your legacy. It's what people will remember you for. It could be a saying, just whatever you would put on a billboard. What is your legacy?
I think it is that like it doesn't take anyone special. Like you can, Andy Frisella talks all the time about if you want to be a successful person, start doing all those things, like cultivate those things. They're not born with it. Like they aren't naturally high producing people. Like you don't have to be born with all these special things in order to be successful in life. You can create that. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. I feel like it's true.
I think about it a little bit differently, but I think everybody's special.
Yes.
So I'm always like, man, like, you know, everybody thinks that, like, you know, I think that you're super special, and I think that, like, you have a lot of gifts, and like you're using a small part of your gifts. Like, there's so much more that you can do that, like, you haven't even tapped into yet, but like you're using a small part of your gifts, and that's what a lot of people don't realize is like that they have gifts too. And they're like, they only have to use a little bit of them to actually accomplish some massive things. Like, you're using just a small portion. So yeah, I think it does take special people, but everybody's special. Like, everybody's got something special about them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that sometimes we think that people are, you know,
Gifted.
set above. They're this and that and stuff like that. And yeah, I used to think the same way. But yeah, I found my thing when I thought that I didn't have any. I was waiting for God to tell me what my special gift was, and it turns out that like we definitely do all have it. You just have to wait until you find it. So yeah, I don't think that you have to be born with it, though. You definitely have to just pursue it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and you, like you said, you can create it, and like it's already there. So it's not like you're actually making it. It's inside of you. It's like
develop it.
Yeah, develop it, or finding different ways to actually like be able to use it or to bring it out like more, because like it's all inside of us, you know what I mean? I remember hearing that quote that really stuck with us. Like, you wouldn't have a dream, like a God-sized dream, if you didn't already have what it takes inside of you to actually go and produce it. Dang. So like, you would not have that inside of you. Like, God didn't put this desire, this like yearning or anything inside of you if you didn't already have what it takes. So yeah, it's just finding out how to pull that out is really the question.
Yeah, for real. And it doesn't have to be right away. Like, I think we tell everyone that we're supposed to have it all figured out by the time we go to college, or by the time you even enter college. Like, you're supposed to have your whole life figured out. And like, I would strongly encourage people to just work for a while, have a bunch of jobs. Like, it really doesn't hurt you that bad. I mean, don't leave them atrociously, but figure out what you like, figure out what you're good at.
Yeah, I always felt like it was 30. Like, 30 was the point when you're supposed to have everything all figured out. And it's so interesting because I remember when my mom was like 27 or 28, and I thought, like, literally, like, I was 12 years old, and I thought, like, she should have it figured out. Like, she should have everything figured out right now. And I'm like, man, like, now looking back, it's interesting, you know? Like, my mom had her first kid when she was 18.
Dang.
And so, like, to me, like, back then, that was normal. Like, it wasn't a big deal. It was normal. Like, that's what happens. Like, you know, I'm 10 and my mom's 28, you know?
Jeez.
Or I might have been like 9 at that point, but still, I was just like, yeah, I feel like she should have had it figured out. And then now looking back, I'm like, man, like,
do we ever really get it figured out?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think anybody that you think has it figured out doesn't really have it figured out. Like, there's no question. Nobody has it figured out.
That's the fun thing that's been nice about like seeing you guys personally. Like, you guys are doing so well in business, but to see you on days that you're like, I don't know what we're gonna do today. It's nice to see the humanity of that.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we need to share it more because there's a lot of those days.
Yeah, well, Jacinda was just saying, like, it doesn't take anyone special. I think, like, maybe a better version of that would just be, like, everybody's just a kid from somewhere.
Yeah.
And, like, we're all just kids raising kids.
Mm-hmm.
Figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought my babysitter, like my 16-year-old babysitter, had her whole life figured out. And then when I got to 16, I was like, oh, heck no. I'm like 10 years older than that almost now, and it's working, but I don't have it all figured out.
Yep.
Well, Jacinda, do you have any final thoughts for our viewers?
Give it a try. Like, I really didn't think it was going to go well. I told myself I'd give it a try once, and if it doesn't go well, then I didn't have to do it again. So give it a try, and you never know what comes up out of it. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for letting me be a part of your guys' business. Like, you guys really opened the doors for me a lot. Like, I definitely would have been stuck at a day job for a long time. I would have been working at UPS, and, like, thank you for your encouragement.
Yeah.
I worked at UPS for a little while.
Nope.
Not a forever job.
Nope.
Not for me. How can listeners get a hold of you? What did you say was J?
J of all trades.
Oh,
J of all trades.
Yeah, with dots in between them all. But otherwise, just in
J. Dot of dot all.trades on Instagram.
Attempt to find my name on Facebook, which is probably equally as difficult. So.
Oh no, that'll be easiher because you have a uniquely spelled name. So.
That's true.
Yeah,
well,
I was saying the
spelling
notes.
of it is.
I was saying the same thing. Like, oh, we'll put in the notes.
Yeah.
That'll help.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being the first woman ever on this podcast. That is crazy. Hopefully, we'll have some more.
Yeah.
But right now, you're going to be number one.
Thanks. It's nice to be here.
Yeah. So if you guys want to be on the podcast and you're a woman, which I don't actually think we have too many women listeners, but hopefully Jacinda's going to get us some more followers here. So share this with your woman.
If you are a woman and you watched all the way to the end of the podcast, put a comment down below.
Yeah. And if you want to be the next guest, let us know. And we are still creating this course. I know a lot of people have been asking. I promise, guys, we're making it. We're almost done, I would say. I would say we're like 80% done at this point. So hopefully this will be the month that we really knock it out. And see you guys on the next one.